Our last question today comes from LBBOLR, who says, so here in the UK, we have a charity organization. Ooh, this is a long one. It's a story. But there is a question at the end. And there is a moral to this story. So they have a charity organization which gives opportunity to the people which have never competed or never even had any training to compete in amateur MMA or boxing events. It's called Ultra MMA. If you're interested in researching, the charity gives people free training for 2 months, twice a week, as long as we raise at least £300 for Cancer Research UK. So I signed up, but I took it seriously and went the extra mile by joining the MMA gym and starting to train hard, 5 to 6 times a week. I dedicated my life to MMA. I made university and studies secondary and only focused on the fight. The gym was an hour away from my house, 30 minutes on train, 30 minutes walk, so I started to run to the gym to get extra conditioning. I was so dedicated I stopped smoking, drinking, went on a diet. But it didn't stop there. When I came home, or when I woke up, I would watch fighter breakdowns, learn new techniques, and listen to fight tips. That's how I came across your channel. But guess what? I lost the fight. But what hurt more than the loss was the fact that my opponent only trained once a week, and he was working the rest of the time. He didn't have any MMA experience like myself, and you could say he was training at another gym, but I know for a fact he wasn't, because we were friends during the training. I only found out he was my opponent 3 days before the fight. The organization does this to prevent any tension. My opponent was 6'1" and 63 kilograms, while I'm 6'5" and only 58 kilograms. And according to the coach and my friends, I was robbed. And I won the first 2 rounds, but the only reason why I lost the last round was because I was on my back, but wasn't in a threatening position. But that's beside the point, because I was training so hard and made MMA my life. It shouldn't have even been close, and I should have dominated even if it did go to a decision. I haven't given up all hope, and I signed up for the next boxing event in July. But the loss still hurts because I gave training and the fight my all, and it didn't pay off. There were days I didn't want to go to training. I even skipped class to go to training, and I said it will be worth it when I win. But guess what? I still lost. So my question is, how can I be victorious at the next boxing event if hard work, drive, dedication, and commitment is not the formula for victory? You lost a decision on some judges' scorecards, but you're about to lose another battle with this attitude, man. Look at what you want. You quit smoking. You quit drinking. You became a dedicated person. You became disciplined. That's called winning at life, man. How many people send me questions saying, Ramsey, how can I be like this guy? How can I be like LBBOLR and get motivated enough to get my butt off the couch and stop indulging in mediocrity and do something meaningful and useful? How do I do that? How do I stop smoking and drinking and getting high all the time and doing all this crap which is making me miserable? And what do I say? Get out there and train, man. Some iteration of that in every video. Get out there and train. And you did it, dude. You've already won so many victories that you seem to be completely unaware of because you were so focused on having your hand raised at the end. And that's great if you can get it, but at the same time, it's important to lose your first fight. I got a little secret, man. Little secret. A lot of people seriously, honestly do not know. Pay attention. I'm going to whisper it to you. Only 50% of all people win fights. The other 50% lose. Did you get that? No, seriously. That is super important. Half of all people win fights, and half of all people lose fights. Half of all fights are won, half of all fights are lost. It's just how it goes. And there are going to be people out there. You can train and train and train and train, and they're still going to kick your butt, even though it seems like they're not putting in the same workload you are. I had a student, a female student. She had a master's degree in wushu from the Shanghai University of Sport, and she had invested her whole life into martial arts. It was her passion. It was her life. She came to my MMA gym and just got her butt kicked by the noobs. And she sat on the side of the mat, super depressed after class one day, and said, I feel like I am owed success. I've put in this vast quantity of work and training and physical fitness and discipline, and I'm getting worked over by the noobs. What is up with this? And I said, look, it's not the same as wushu. It's not the same as doing forms. And she's like, I know that, but I'm a disciplined person. I know how to train. And it just couldn't register with her. She felt like, I put in all this hard work. This is where a lot of people get it wrong. They feel like if they just dump training into the training pot and stir it up, they're going to pull out a success soup at the end of it. It's more complicated, more nuanced, and in many ways much more simple than that. Man, let's go back to the analogy of the speed bag. Do you know how to use a speed bag? If not, you should. I've got a ton of videos, a whole playlist on speed bag stuff here. Go check out some other great channels like the great Alan Kahn, Speed Bag 1, and some others on YouTube. Man, I love the speed bag, but it's not a pick up and play type of thing. If you don't know how to use it and you try to use the speed bag, you will be endlessly frustrated because it takes some time to learn. Not a super long time. I would say it takes about 3 months to really master the basics of timing and rhythm on the speed bag so that you can then start really, really training and integrating some of these techniques into your fight game and developing, some explosive power and some athletic attributes which will really help you as a boxer. But a lot of people don't even touch it, or they give up on it because they don't get those instant rewards. So it takes about 10 hours of time to get good at the speed bag. But notice I said 3 months and 10 hours. Well, wait a minute. Those aren't the same things, except here's how you spread out those 10 hours. 10 minutes a day for 3 months. That's about 10 hours of time on the speed bag. Don't do all those 10 hours at once. Don't try to skip ahead. Don't do an hour today and an hour tomorrow and get it done in 10 days. Why? Because you don't improve from repetition to repetition. You're going to improve from sleep to sleep. You are going to improve from failing one day, sleeping on it, thinking over it, mulling over it, progressing, overcoming the challenges in your mind, and then going back to that challenge once again physically, and then trying it over again and being a tiny incremental bit better, and then failing again and sleeping on it again and letting your neural pathways heal and rewire and restructure, and then you wake up smarter and better with different ideas about how to approach that same problem the next day, and you do it again for 10 minutes. And you fail in different ways, importantly different ways, and you go back to the drawing board, and you do this 10 minutes a day for 3 months, and then you log a total of 10 hours on that speed bag. Then you look like a professional at the end. You look better than Rocky Balboa in the movies. This will work. This does work. This is a tried and true method of learning the speed bag. And you can apply this to other complex motor movements like skipping rope, or juggling, or really anything else. Do it for 10 minutes a day for 3 months. And sleep on it. Because hammering out those 10 hours all at once, what would that do? You wouldn't be any better after hour 10. You would still suck at the speed bag after hour 10. You would look exactly the same as repetition number 1. Now, what does that have to do with losing your first fight? Your first 10 fights are going to suck, whether you win them or lose them, which is why I'm glad you lost your first fight. That probably sounds terrible. What? The coach thinks it's good that I lost? Yeah, it is good that you lost, because this is the most transformative moment a fighter can experience, losing his first fight. Because this tells you who you really are. It does. It tells you whether you're that one and done guy or whether or not you're going to get back on the horse whether or not you're going to cowboy up and get back on the bowl, man. It's This is an important opportunity for you. Your question reminded me a lot of when I was a kid, and a lot of the other kids, we would arm wrestle each other, and I was a weakling, and I couldn't beat anybody at arm wrestling, and I worked harder than anyone to try to get strong enough to win at arm wrestling. I worked so hard. I tried so hard. I did everything I could to get stronger. I invested more time than all these people into trying to get stronger, and they were just stronger than me regardless, and it never worked, and I always lost. And it is very, very tempting to fall into the trap of why try, because it didn't happen on my timetable. And that's a dangerous trap to fall into. Because how fast you want things to work and how fast things actually do work are not the same thing. Your opponent was bigger and he was stronger. A few kilos heavier and quite a bit taller and reachier. And so, man, this presents some problems, man, when somebody's bigger and stronger than you, reachier than you. Even if you have technical superiorities, they can still give you problems, man. If the best jiu-jitsu black belt in the world fights a guy 10 times stronger than him, it's... Even if that strong man knows nothing about martial arts, there's a high probability the best jiu-jitsu black belt in the world is getting squashed, man. And it's not because he didn't try hard enough. I know it hurts, man. I know it hurts. And people might be throwing that loss up in your face, saying, you lost, you suck, you should just give up now. You tried so hard, and it sucks, and you are your own worst critic. The things you're telling yourself are even worse than what the outside voices, even on their worst day, even at their meanest, are telling you right now. But this is an inspiring story. I love the fact you would run to the gym, even though it's a long trip to the gym, an hour to get to the gym, 30 minutes on train and a 30-minute walk, and you would run to get the extra training. And one of the fighters that I trained for a while, Leo Lee, she ended up winning the WBA Asia Championship belt in boxing. You know how she got to the gym? She would run. Because she wanted that extra training. She wanted to push herself just that little bit. She would run to our strength and conditioning sessions, man. I couldn't convince her not to. It was just who she was, a champion in her heart and in her mind. Man. But how many fights did she have before she won that title? A lot more than one, man. A lot more than one. It is very tempting, especially as a young man, to think that one day is everything. One fight is everything. It is a childish attitude, and we need to outgrow it. We need to outgrow it. One fight is not a representative sample of who you are. In fact, a whole fight record is not a record of who you are. As a professional fighter, those numbers in your fight record matter. Sure, they do, because that tells a fight promoter whether or not you're going to get a job, whether or not they're going to give you a paycheck. Tells them a little bit about who to match you up against, which is why it's very important not to pad your record, man. Amateur fighting experience, if you want to go pro, is important. Get your first 10 fights that suck out of the way right away. Did I tell you your first 10 fights are going to suck whether you win or lose? Imagine if you won that fight. Imagine if you fought a wimp that you could just bulldoze. And you'd probably be patting yourself on the back thinking, yeah, that's because I trained so hard. When in reality it was just a wimp that you bulldozed. But now you have a growth opportunity. Look, man, if you had to do that fight over again, what would you do differently? Watch the tape. You may never rematch this guy, but this is an important exercise after every win and every loss. If you had to do it again, what would you do differently? How would you approach training differently? How would you approach the fight differently? Then do that. And then train to fight a guy who is even tougher. Train to beat a guy that's even tougher. The secret is consistency. The secret is keep doing it. Because at the end of the day, fighters fight. And that simply means you get up and you do it again. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. The old Japanese proverb, but Ramsey, that's mathematically impossible. If I fall down 7 times, shouldn't I stand up 7 times? No, that means stand up 1 more time than you fall down every time. That means if you fail, get up again and do it again, man. That means be the guy that they can't keep down. Be the guy that you can't keep down. And stop telling yourself this story. Instead of telling yourself this story, hard work doesn't pay off. Make it a life pursuit to work smarter as well as working harder. Because in the end, that's what pays off, man. I have a friend who is an investment banker, makes billion-dollar deals. He's handled more wealth than most humans. And he knows how to invest. And one day he said to me, I coached the man, my good friend Paul, and he said, the model you have for personal training sessions is not optimizing your time. I'm paraphrasing. He said something. It's not optimizing your time. I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, you want to spend your time in ways that pays back in dividends, as opposed to a lump sum. Instead of selling an hour for $100 or whatever it is you do, instead of selling an hour of your life for a finite quantity of money, put that time, invest that time into something which will grow and flower and flourish and keep returning rewards to you throughout your life. And this isn't just investment banking advice, man. This is life advice, dude. Train smarter, not just harder. Is it really smarter to skip class, for example? I don't know. Is it smarter to quit smoking? Yes, absolutely. Is it smarter to run to class? Maybe, sometimes. Is it smarter to train more often? Sometimes. Sometimes there is wisdom in taking a rest day. So being a first-time fighter, being fairly new to combat sports, you have an amazing opportunity to reevaluate your system of training. What you did before, it wasn't enough. It was a lot, but it wasn't enough. And I know it's insulting. There are folks out there who can beat you with 0 training. There are guys who are just physically tough who can beat you without training. Training is not a meritocracy. It's not, I invested X number of hours into training and therefore I should always be able to beat every untrained person. No. No. Your training is going to give you tools to increase your chances of winning fights. It is not ensured victories. There are so many variables in this equation. There's always another person in this equation too. It is possible to do everything right and still lose. Let's nerd out for a little bit. Let's contrast characters from Star Trek. Jean-Luc Picard, the captain of the Enterprise from Star Trek The Next Generation, compared with the OG James Tiberius Kirk, captain of the Enterprise from the original Star Trek series. James Kirk said, I do not believe in I don't believe in the no-win scenario. I don't believe in the no-win scenario. Whereas Captain Picard said, it is possible to do everything right and still lose. That is human, not failure. And these ideas, while seemingly paradoxical, are both true. A fighter does not believe in the no-win scenario. You have to believe that you can win and that you will win. And you have to be upset enough at a loss to kick yourself in the butt, to get yourself to do what it takes to win next time. And at the same time, if and when the other guy does more, or beats you, or by the luck of the draw, or the gift of genetics, or whatever it is, or just being an angry, mean cuss of a man who is able to overpower you or outpoint you or woo the judges or whatever it is that cost you that victory, you can still come out of this victorious. That is not a failing. That is human. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and keep training, dude. Let me know how it goes.